assuming that all Kachin people are supporters of KIA and therefore legitimate targets. Since the start of the conflict, KWAT, Kachin Women Association in Thailand, has documented widespread human rights abuses committed by the Burma Army against civilians, including sexual violence, torture, and killing, which likely amount to crimes against humanity with impunity and war crimes. Burmese troops have committed sexual violence against at least 61 women and children, about half of whom were already killed. Sexual violence has already been committed against men. In an open letter to President Thein Sein, a Kachin woman has appealed for justice for her husband, Mr. Lapaigam, age 24, a displaced villager who in June 2012 endured severe torture and sexual abuse by the Burmese troops of Infantry Battalion 37. Accused of being KIA soldiers, he and another villager caught going to tend cattle outside Myitkyina were beaten, cut with knives, hung up by chains, submerged in water, and forced to drink petrol. Taunted for being Christians, they were forced to spread their arms in a crucifix position and kneel on sharp stones. They were also forced to perform homosexual acts in front of the Burmese soldiers. They are currently being held without charge in Myitkyina prison. International aid has been restricted by the Burmese government and the Burmese authorities in the war zones, in the conflict zones, from accessing displaced populations in Kachin control areas. The UN has only been granted access 4 times to these border regions. According to local relief groups, only 4% of food needs have been provided by international aid groups, including UN, to almost 60,000 people sheltering in China and Burma border areas. Nearly all food and other basic support have been funded by private donations from local or overseas compatriots. This has placed a huge burden on local communities who have struggled to meet the basic needs of the growing numbers of displaced. As I've already mentioned above, the Kachin people whose relatives, family, and beloved died in the war while fleeing in the jungle, while fleeing from the Burmese, some were killed, being tortured, raped, and the ones who are left, they can do nothing. They have no choice, they have no other choices but to join up in the military, in the Kachin armed groups, to defend their own land and to protect their own people. In summary, I would like to give a message here. Kachin state is not in a war. It is not just a civil war. It is much worse than that. It is genocide. I'm sure this is ethnic cleansing. Using war planes, jet fighters, chemical weapons, by targeting innocent civilians is not just a war. It is genocide. Of course, there would be some victims in a war, but there shouldn't be any fighting where there is no enemy, where there is no armed man. It's just a simple village where there are only innocent civilians are living. As this is war against the Kachins, not only the Kachins, but also to other ethnic nationalities by the Burmese army of the Burmese government, there are more and more IDPs in KIA-controlled areas with less and less help or assistance from NGOs and churches, which were blocked by the Burmese army or the Burmese government. As long as there's no one to make sure